Welcome to another week of Barstool Perspective. I'm Mike Morgan.
And I'm Brett Coleman Baker.
And we're here to give you a breakdown of the booze news of the week that you need to know.
In beer this week, Canarchy Collective has changed their name to Monster Brewing. Now, if you're not familiar, Canarchy is a brewing collective composed of Oskar Blues, the original brewery to put their beer in cans.
Yep.
Cigar City.
Famous beer.
And a couple other different breweries, like 4 others. Now, they got bought out by Monster Energy because they wanted to start making hard monster drinks. Beast Unleashed, Nasty Beast. These are a couple of their offerings.
I haven't had any of these things. They always sound disgusting.
Keep it that way.
Yeah.
Terrible names. I'm sure it's bad, according to our own opinion. But regardless, they changed the name from Canarchy to Monster, and the CEO came out and said, the name change reflects what we want to focus on. Mike, is this a foretelling of the downfall of yet another classic American craft brewery?
Yes, it is. This sounds absolutely like the playbook of what they did with Anchor Steam of Sapporo and Anchor Steam, buying up breweries for additional brewing space and tactical reasons and not respecting the brand or the beer or anything about it and then dismantling it out of
That's exactly
greed.
what this sounds like. And the nice thing with Canarchy is they have breweries dotted across the country, which is perfect for distribution. You got Denver, you got Florida, you got the West, Utah, you got Michigan. You basically got the whole country covered.
And those are some good breweries. And as you said, Oskar Blues, the first to go into can. It's a really famous brewery. Actually, I've got a friend who named her son Oscar after that brewery.
No way.
Yeah, that's true. So, I don't know if she's going to change the kid's name or not, but I'm going to have to text her and see if she's traumatized.
It's really just a sad state of affairs that this shit keeps happening. They're literally paving the way to erode more American craft brewing history. And they don't give a shit. And no one's setting up red flags. We're setting up the red flags now, but no one else is doing it. No. And that's exactly what's happening. They're going to stop investing in it. They're going to stop putting money into it, and they're just going to let it die because they want the capacity for Monster and Nasty Beast.
The reason that we like craft beer the way that we do has a lot to do with there's a kind of underlying culture to craft beer. Sort of this, anti-corporate, respect local, artisan kind of thing. I mean, it has been called the craft beer revolution since the early 80s for a reason. And this is definitely a fascist corporate takeover of the craft beer revolution.
Small business has been dying in this country for a long time.
Craft beer was the one exception.
It was, and now it's going the opposite way.
Yep.
In wine this week, a new report has come out that
I thought that was I was going to start whining.
That's going to happen this whole episode anyway.
More bitching.
And wine, the drink this week. A new report has come out where boomers over the age of 65 currently account for over 50% of the majority of wine consumption based on dollars spent. That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
What the problem is that boomers are also, 1, dying because they're old, and 2, stopping to drink because they're old. However, the issue is that every generation below them, X, Millennial, and Z, are not drinking wine at the replacement rate. So wine, are they sitting at the edge of a cliff? Is wine in America going to die?
I would say absolutely if they're not going to do something to dramatically change course. And as we have talked about and harped about multiple times on this show, I think a lot of it has to do with the restaurant business, the restaurant business predominantly. The obscene markups of wine drive people away from wine. I mean, when you go to a restaurant and the cheapest bottle of wine that you can get off the menu, which sells for $7 in a store, which is enough markup to make the vineyard a lot of money, is $45, $50 on that restaurant menu, you're turning off a lot of people. Especially since boomers have also just, crushed the ability of millennials and Gen Z to even buy their own home, and they've screwed up the economy in a million different ways. So I think it's just one more thing that boomers are destroying for America. Thanks, boomers.
The narrative always, too, was when you go to a restaurant, the restaurant makes their money on the wine, but you get cheaper food prices as a result.
Yeah, well,
that's not the case anymore.
That ain't happening, no.
And then you got to pay tip tax on top of everything, which is out of control anymore these days.
Tip tax, yes.
Yeah, so it's just crazy. I agree with you. And this isn't even factoring in the things that have haunted wine since wine has started in this country in the 50s, where the education hurdle is huge. So not only do you have this bullshit education hurdle of like, what's a fucking Napa Valley grown West Side Hill Pinot Noir? Like, who gives a shit? What, is it good or not?
Yeah, they don't make it approachable.
Yes.
Right.
So, wine. They need to figure some shit out or they're going away. Now, in spirits news of the week, tequila has officially stopped growing in the United States. However, tequila is still growing national.
I didn't even know it was a plant. I would have planted it.
Tequila comes from agave, which takes 7 years to harvest. So part of the issue is that agave farmers have to predict 7 years from now where the tequila market's going to be, and that impacts pricing. The problem is that humans aren't good at predicting the future. So we follow trends, and it impacts pricing more often than not in the negative way that you want.
If you buy a Christmas tree, you saw that in the past 2 years with Christmas tree prices. Yes. COVID came and everybody was like, oh my God, we got to stop selling Christmas trees or growing Christmas trees. And so there was a, absence of trees, and it drove up the cost, more than doubled.
And this is what happens with tequila and agave. Yeah. However, the unique spin on this too is that in America right now, the number one most popular type of restaurant is Mexican restaurants.
Yep.
For the first time ever.
Surpassed Italians.
And the number one fucking beer is Modelo, which is also a Mexican import.
Mexicanish.
So we've hit peak tequila. However, everything Mexican influence is still really popular in this country.
Yeah.
So what's happening
except
with tequila?
Mexicans. I mean, build the wall when it comes to actual Mexicans, but the restaurants and the beer and the tequila, yes.
And we all saw how God's army worked out, right?
Right.
So what is happening? Why is tequila peaking? Why when everything else Mexican culture is growing? Why is tequila hitting a flatness? Is there a fix?
Well, I mean, it could just be a price thing, but it is an interesting. It's probably a price thing. It probably has something to do with bourbon going, crazy out of control. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that I would write tequila off, because I do think that for all the political rhetoric, waves of immigration to the United States have defined it and grown it and changed it over time. Christmas looks like Christmas because of Germans, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that a lot of what we eat and drink now is actually defined by immigration patterns over the past 30 some years. And I think that's a fine thing. There was a certain presidential candidate that promised a taco truck on every corner, and that was supposed to be a bad thing, but I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that shit. Let's go.
I love tacos.
That's actually really great points, and that's not to say anything too of the impact that tequila growth in Europe has had on our market, which is driving prices upwards.
It's growing.
Also, mezcal is really popping off, and so if we're talking about tequila, which is not mezcal, those numbers also impact
What's the difference? I thought mezcal was just like really expensive tequila.
Mezcal is agave spirit that's made in the mezcal region. I know that sounds like a fucking meme, but like that's literally the difference. It's all
so it's regional. It's like Burgundy wine,
or bourbon versus whiskey. It's all mezcal's a type of tequila, but mezcal isn't. All tequila is not mezcal, but all mezcal is tequila type situation.
But it's different from bourbon in the fact that it has to be regional.
Yes,
it's more like champagne or bourbon.
Yeah, unlike Kentucky, who couldn't pull their heads out of their asses and protect bourbon as a Kentucky thing.
Right.
Mezcal has.
Yep.
So. All right.
It's Mitch McConnell's fault.
Our last quick news story of the week is about on-premise. Now, if you're not familiar with what on-premise is, we basically mean going to bars and or restaurants. On-premise growth is traditionally bad in January.
Terrible.
However, this January actually saw really great on-premise growth over the last 3 Januaries, and it saw massive spikes over the last 3 months, which were terrible. Normally, end of the year is really good for on-premise because you have holidays and you have football. However, October, November, December of 2023 were actually pretty fucking pitiful. However, January 24, great.
You're talking year to year. You're not telling me that January 2024 was better than December 2023.
January 2024 was not better than December 2023 as a total. However, in terms of growth and in terms of trends, the trends for the last 3 months was bad. The trend for this month was good. This month also year over year was better than the last 3 years. So in general, January basically looks better, even though if the total numbers aren't as good as last month.
So A, dry January is out of fad. B, 2024 is, as we know, the first year of the apocalypse. So let's all get drunk.
Is that what you think's happening?
That's what I think's
fuck
happening.
it. We see the end coming this November.
Yeah.
Let's just get wasted. Fuck it. We're going out.
Yeah.
What's money anyways? Let's burn it.
Let me tell you, your long-term health doesn't really matter. For a while, how fast you can run, that might matter. But in the end...
Wait,
in the end, I mean by 2025.
Are we going to turn into zombies? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
You can only outrun them for so long? All right. The main story of the week. Mike, have you heard of Ultra Right beer before?
I have. I bought a case of it, and it still hasn't showed up.
Well, if you're like Mike out there, you probably already know. But if you haven't bought any Ultra Right beer yet, this is a man who founded a beer company that was anti-wokeness as soon as Kid Rock announced his boycott on Bud Light.
Yeah.
He announced it. He released this beer that looked like a lot like Mick Ultra, but he called it Ultra Right.
Yeah.
And it was going to break America free of its ultra or woke shackles.
Well, he also started doing cans that had Trump on them.
Yep.
And it's so...
Made a lot of commercials bashing trans people.
Yeah. And I mean, what this guy did, I think from a messaging political standpoint, he's vile. But what he did from a business standpoint was as timed as well as it could have been. I mean, he took advantage of this whole wave of right-wing media hate of Bud Light. And so the timing was good, and I think the market of it was brilliant. Because if at this point you still worship an orange-headed false god, you're easy to dupe. You're naive. So he took advantage of a lot of naive people and who are angry, but he couldn't make money on it, and he can't even deliver this beer because at the end of the day, it was a stupid business model.
It's a terrible business model because he was selling light American lager, which is traditionally the cheapest beer you can get, at Apex premium craft beer prices. $20 a six-pack.
Yeah.
$20 a six-pack for cheap, shitty beer is a horrible ripoff. Then you had to pay for shipping because you couldn't buy it at stores. You had to buy it direct. So tack on another $11.
Yeah,
so now you're out $30 for
$30
a fucking six-pack of cheap beer.
Yeah.
And he
a
was
Bud
saying,
Light equivalent.
quote, this is the price that you pay to protect freedom. But that just basically means open your wallet, you dumbass. I'm going to take all your money.
Right. And he sold a bunch of it.
He sold a bunch of it.
Because
presumably.
Dumbasses.
But not enough to actually pay to get the batch made. He never actually made any beer.
Oh, he never even got a single batch made.
I have not seen any record of anyone buying and drinking his beer. Wait, record of people buying it. No record of anyone drinking it. Even as of last month on Reddit, there was a thread asking, when am I going to get my Ultra Right beer? I bought it a year ago. Their website online says we'll deliver to you within 30 days. However, when we went to buy it this morning to prove to you, our wonderful listeners, if it was possible to buy this beer, their website says we are not accepting any payments at this time. So
this is a stupid idea for several reasons. Number one, there are a lot, but this has become more of a thing where rich idiots decide that they're going to start a brewery by contract brewing. I know marketing, etc. So I'm going to contract brew, meaning you're going to pay a brewery to brew the beer for you. And there's nothing wrong with contract brewing, and you can grow a brewery that way. It's how Sam Adams started. But you have to have a product that is setting itself apart in some way, or you have to have some set in distribution system. You have to have something more than, oh, well, I want to slap a name on something that I make you make.
But everyone takes cuts, is what these people don't realize is at every single point in the process, someone is taking a cut. And I guarantee at a minimum, that cut is 30%. So you got to buy the cans from the can manufacturer, 30% cut. You got to get someone to make the beer for you. They're going to get a 30% cut. You got to find a distributor to sell the beer, 30% cut.
Well,
you got to find a retailer to sell that product from a distributor, 30% cut. How much money's left for you at the end?
That is not much. But I think it's dumber than that, because those last two steps that you said, get a distributor and sell it at a retail level, he's doing direct mail marketing. So, okay, you cut out distributor and cut out retail, but what it means is that not only do you have to ship it, but you have to get individual licensing everywhere that you're going to sell it.
Yes.
And that's expensive as hell.
In every state.
That's a gazillion dollars of legal fees and licensing fees. So there's no possible way that this could have made money from the beginning. And anybody with an ounce of business sense would have known that this was impossible to make a penny on.
And I would argue this guy actually has a couple ounces of business sense that he just applies unethically.
I think he's just a grifter.
He knew he was never going to make money on it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't ever planning on purchasing or making beer. He was just planning on you giving him money.
Just like his orange-headed God, he'll bilk a bunch of people and file bankruptcy. It's what you do.
And the money spent on operating expenses, i.e. his salary, his pocket.
Right.
And you write that shit off through bankruptcy and then you move on.
If you were dumb enough to buy his beer, you were dumb enough to buy his beer.
He's
a con man and a grifter.
Buyer beware? Isn't that what this country was kind of built on back before we had protections for fucking dum-dums?
Yeah. You know who's really to blame here, though? Joe Biden.
Well, if it wasn't for the Bidenomics, I could afford to buy $30
Biden's policies are definitely what made this beer unaffordable.
It's the unions that are hurting my pay.
Yeah. The unions, Biden's policies, they're why this didn't work.
If I want to butt chug goddamn heroin beer, let me butt chug heroin beer. Get the big government out of here. Let me put that shit right in my anus. Stop it.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, it can be. Can be. If we fucking elect Trump again, we can fucking make heroin butt chugs a thing again.
All right.
That's all we got. That's all we got. That's all we got this week. That's the end of the week.
Well,
butt chugs, y'all.
Butt chugs. We love you, people. Have a good week.